Welcome to the Right Club podcast, where the focus is on helping you, the real estate investor, advance to the next level. And now let's join this week's hosts and share ways for you to customize your life.
But the actual answer to that is, first, it would, like, I have to acknowledge it would help a lot of people. It would. And naturally speaking, for the end user, there's a lot of people that would benefit from this. True. Is it a political thing? 100%. Does it make functional sense? Absolutely not. It is the most dumbest idea I can possibly think of. The reason why is because I of course I can't, but I could rattle off addresses to you, right? Of these nightmare places where you start to see the system work against the tenants, right? The first thing I tell every tenant client, if you live in an illegal unit, don't call bylaw. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're going to get evicted. Don't do that, right? Sort the situation out first. And if it's applicable, I'll tell you need to do it, but do not do it, because what happens? Bylaw gets involved. They cite a bunch of violations. And what happens? You have a valid reason to end 13, out the door you go, right? So it's people shooting themselves in the foot thinking it's a great idea. But in a lot of cities, there's a lot of properties that are illegal units. And in this specific case, if you have this law in place and you have 120 units in one building, or 20 units, 30 units, you start to see turnover in those investors. Hold for a couple of years, people leave, you leave it vacant, right? You leave 40 doors vacant. And I have a property that's exactly like this. It's gone through the who's of investors, the big names. I can't say, but it's gone through. It's in Hamilton, just in downtown. And it's gone through the best of the best of Ontario, the best investors, the power teams, all of it. Every single one sold. And people and the tenant group, which is, which I won't discuss them because not that great of terms with them, but that group has contacted me many times about the specific property. And the answer is always the same. Who in the right mind would buy this place? Who would want to work with you? Right. And and you have to work with them. And no one's renovating these things correctly. It's like, well, they're not going to, because the incentive is not there. They can't get their rents. And a mom and pop person is not buying 100 units. They're not buying 50 units. They're not doing it, right? The capital that's needed is going to be a large corporation. And they look purely at numbers. If you make the numbers make sense, we'll work with you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. This law, it won't. And if it won't, they just won't touch it. And those places will sit there, and the end user, the tenant, ends up being harmed because they don't have running water fast. They live there 20, 30 years in a unit that's never been renovated. It's like, right, this is what happens. It's right. You have to keep the balance. And if you do this, you're going to shift the scales heavily in one favor. If you do that, then you're going to go back to the Wild West of people just ripping out door locks and then shutting off the power and making people miserable. It's like, because that's the only thing that's left of these people. Mm-hmm. And they thought this investment is a great idea. Now they're losing $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a month, and people get desperate and they get dumb. Right? Even the most professional investors, they just try to find a quick way out so they're not, losing their entire retirement, right? Or declaring bankruptcy. And yeah, that's where you see like the animosity start to go. But that's where it's going to go, right? If this law passes, which eventually I think it will, if they start electing the NDP or some more counselors in there that are a lot more tenant focused, which more and more are becoming, and even the conservatives are starting to have to acknowledge certain things. You could very much see this in Ontario. And if you did, it's not going to be a good day.
Thanks for listening to the Right Club podcast, where the focus is on helping all levels of real estate investors advance to the next level and help you customize your life. Be sure to tune in next week at rightclub.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you get a few seconds, please rate the podcast wherever you're listening. It helps the show get noticed by others like you, and we truly appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe.